Welcome. Our show will begin shortly. Thank you for joining us, everyone. We shall begin our show now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by We Are Storically, Conscious Brand Apparel. Hello and welcome to another episode of Creatives Chat. Hi, I'm Rusty.
I'm Peter.
And Peter, I know you got a surprise lined up for us. Who's it going to be this evening?
Oh, Rusty, I'm incredibly excited to have this beautiful soul. Not only does she have an amazing voice, she's a self-proclaimed gypsy who's literally traveled all over the world, spreading her love and light with her music, an amazing, talented voice, and just overall special beingness, Poeina.
Ooh, Poeina. Oh, I'm so thrilled to have her back. We did Raise the Cakes last week to raise money for my sweet little cakes, and she was instrumental in getting that fundraiser going. And so I'm glad that you invited her to our show. Let's bring her to the front. I'll hop in the back, and if I got a question, I'll come back later.
Let's get to it.
Let's make it happen.
Oh, Poeina, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. And I know Rusty is excited to tune in, just like the rest of our audience, because we got a chance to really meet and formally engage in our Raise the Cake fundraiser that you brought me on board in. So what have you been up to since then?
Oh, that was so much fun. I love that. That was great. Since then, I've just been working. I've been making some sparkly things.
So I know you have a beautiful voice, but what else do you do?
I make costumes. I make costumes. I'm a designer. I work for other designers. I do a lot of things with my hands. So.
Well, I think that's kind of the coolest thing is getting a chance to really know you on that is like you're a person with an incredibly journey, like, and it's an amazing timeline. So I just want to really give the listeners some ear candy. But just really starting off is like, where did your musical journey begin?
At the beginning, I guess. I mean, honestly, my mom used to always say that, like, even in the womb, I was, music was on and I was singing and dancing. There's always wiggling in the womb. Then I started training when I was 3. And so, I knew what I was going to do, and I just, that's all I wanted to do. So that's what I did.
You started training when you were 3? What type of training? Like musical or
guitar? I first
or?
started vocal training.
Wow.
And then I started singing when I was 8. I did like private lessons before that. And then when I was 8, I joined the Seattle Girls Choir. And so then I learned, my teacher was Russian. And so I learned very, very strict classical music from a Russian teacher, which was wonderful and lovely and great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then I think I started playing guitar when I was 13 or 14, and then I was just teaching myself and like reading Guitar Magazine or just learning some chords out of books or whatever I could find. We didn't have the internet way back in those days.
That's so crazy. And honestly, like when you hear about the classical training, I'm not shocked because I was listening to your Caro mio bene little performance that you did, and I loved it. My sister-in-law and my brother live in Italy, so I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so good.
Oh yeah, I've been enjoying. I'm trying to work on another classical piece. I never really I mean, I've never put anything like that out online or released anything like that, but like when I was a street kid, I used to my shtick or whatever to make money for food or whatever was to sit and smoke cigarettes and sing opera on the sidewalk. And then as I got older and I started touring, then sometimes people would find out that I sang opera and they'd shout, operatic interlude. And I'd stop the show and sing some opera. But, yeah. And I'd always wanted to maybe do a classical album, but I'd never really done it. And then, once the COVID happened and I hunkered down, I went, and just was like, well, I guess I'll make some videos and what can I do? And I haven't been able to play the guitar as much as normal the last year. I have some injuries, and so I was like, how else can I continue singing and continue being creative? And so I was like, I'm going to do this opera thing. And so, yeah, I have just a few videos up, but I'm working on some more, and hopefully I'm going to collaborate with a harpist on the next one and have them play the track, and then I'll sing the opera. So we'll see.
Yo, I'm so excited for that. I think that, I mean, again, like, we were chatting about it in the green room, and like, Google identifies your music as neo-folk, but you have such a...
It does?
Yeah.
Google says that?
But you're so beyond that. I mean, again, like, it's the songs that we experienced in the Raise the Cakes fundraiser, it was timeless music, and it's a broad spectrum of different genres. And I think that's one of the things where you have classical too, like with the opera. I think that just adds more fuel to the creative fires. So I'm waiting for that album.
Yeah, I remember at one point, because, when I first started writing songs, I just, I didn't know how to sing with my whole range. I just would whatever, little song I write. And then one day I was at a show and one of my friends was like, how about you stick some opera in the middle of this song and just see how it goes? And I was like, okay. And just tried it out. And it was really cool. So since then I've been able to write in the opera into some of my weird music, other music, eccentric music. I don't know what to call it.
Oh, I just say good music. You can sing. And again, like, it's catchy tunes too. And I think that's one of the things that we've talked about before, but it's, your words really do carry that like timeless poetic nature to them. And I think that's one of the reasons why your songs always hit really hard, is because you have so much emotion with your voice too. So,
thank you.
and like, check them out. Check all those songs out, listeners. You have to. Well,
yeah, I get really obsessed with the sound textures, with each note and the words. And sometimes I'm like, well, that lyric's cheesy, but I'm gonna sing it this way so that it isn't. I don't know. Like, I'll find a way sometimes.
I love that. Well, your creative process has been going on for a long time, and I guess I would say is tying it back to what you just kind of briefly touched on earlier, is what was your experience performing on the streets like?
Oh, wow. This pops in my head immediately. So, first of all, there was a unique experience I had while performing out on the streets, on the sidewalks, where if there was ever a person who would come up to me and start yelling at me, telling me I was like the rot of the earth, I need to get a job, that I was perfectly able, that I shouldn't be out there begging, blah, 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 you're a horrible person, etc. And this would happen from time to time. And they just screaming right in my face, never met him in my life, happened. But every time it did happen, it was immediately followed within, 10 minutes or so with some sort of extreme fan that would be like, oh my God, I saw you perform. hear whatever or just like your voice is so beautiful, like I'm crying, and you solved my problem for the day, or whatever it was. It was just like over the top, just like pouring out of love. And it was so strange that it would always occur like that. If someone was going to be psychotically horrible, if I just kept singing, 10 minutes later, complete total opposite. But one thing that popped in my head as soon as you asked that question, and this is such a unique experience, and I can't even explain it, but I used to do these improvs, because sometimes singing songs out on the street, it doesn't really go that well, because you only are catching people for like, within ear range of walking from here to here. So sometimes it'd be better if I was just jamming on the guitar, and if I was just freestyling and singing whatever I felt. And then that way I could continue singing for like 10, 15, 20 minutes or longer, so that people were like, oh, that sounds good, and give me $1. Oh, that sounds good, give me $1.
Yeah.
But so oftentimes these improv jams on the street would start out, and somebody would, give me a word or a topic or something. And this was one of those times where someone had just told me, don't quit your day job, you're effing horrible, and you've ruined my day for coming out here and singing, and like I really wish you would just shut up. And right after that happened, this it was like 3 people come walk up, and they're like, oh my gosh, your voice is so beautiful, blah blah blah. And they were like, please sing us a song. And I said, give me a topic. And they were like, okay, peace and revolution, or some things like this, right? And I'm like, all right, I can riff on that. And so I start playing, and I start singing this song, just about peace and love and happiness and all that hippie stuff, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Just singing it, and it starts to rain. But the weird thing was, while I was improvising, it didn't rain on me or my guitar or the people I was singing to. And we looked around on the ground, and there was literally like a little tiny opening in the cloud or something that we didn't get rained on during this improv. Yeah, it was insane. It was totally insane. It was interesting. Yeah.
That power of love, though, right?
I was probably 17 when that happened.
That's so wild that you'd get you put it the perfect way, like the psychotic, like hatred and aggression and negativity and like that kind of just dark energy, but then boom, immediately met with some loving forces, which most people I'm sure would break down and just not even want to play after that. So again, like testament to your strength.
Well, yeah, and it would be hard, and I'd have to be like, like moving forward, But then it was like, oh, I did the right thing, like it's okay, everything's fine now. Like I can stop stressing out.
I love it. Well, again, that just goes to show the opportunities that most people miss just by not taking the chance and doing it and acting on it and keep going with it. So we're each those unique beings, and we each have our own gifts to really share to the world. And it's just been an amazing journey that you've gotten to really do that through your own efforts. So when did you really start getting, I guess you'd say, off the streets into music and more into like the studios and on tours?
Well, I toured the first time when I was 17.
Ooh.
And it was like on Interscope. And it was I was singing backup and playing electric guitar for a Seattle rock band. So that was my first tour. And then after that, I ran away from all of that. And I started playing music with a couple friends and my sister, and we had a couple of guitars and we all sang together, and they didn't care about anything. And then it was like we wanted to travel. We wanted to go to Texas, I think, when we had heard about South by Southwest. And we were like, let's go there. Well, we didn't really ever make it there. Not for a long time after did I make it there. I mean, like years later. But we tried to go, and it ended up just like, you know, going from one city to the next, having to get gas money, and going out and singing on the sidewalk wherever we were. And then came through a town, and somebody said, why don't you come inside and play? And I was like, oh, well, that'd be nice. So inside the coffee shop, we were like, everyone was like, oh, this is great. Like, you need to be playing inside, not out on the street. And I was like, yeah, it's a good idea. And I was like, I wonder if coffee shops would let me play if I called them, you know, the next town over where I'm headed to.
Wow.
So first just started booking shows, you know, wherever I was headed, using the public library computer and payphones on the road, because we used to have payphones on the road to tell the venue, like, we're on our way. And then I was like, well, we don't really do this in advance, you know, we can really like book this and then go, like, oh, this could be fun, like, well, where do we want to go? And so eventually we did make it down to Austin. By then we didn't like it there, and I think at that point we had accrued like another band member and a boyfriend and someone else's friend, and I think there was a couple of dogs. I don't know, it was the whole thing.
The caravan.
Yeah,
I
it was
love
quite
it.
ridiculous. And then, yeah, we tried to stay there for a little while, and it didn't quite work out. So me and one of the other girls just kept driving around and finding places to play. And, you know, then I got sort of better at, like, booking tours and stuff. And, you know, then as time went on, I ended up, like, booking tours for other people and then going as opening acts, or, like, you know, or booking my own tours or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
No, keep it rolling, because I guess when did you really end that like stint and run of just doing your own kind of like tour booking and all that?
Well, I think I had a big breakup with my musical partner and my life partner. We like had done the whole thing. So I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I gotta start all over, like pick a different band name and, you know, whatever. And I was like, well, you know, and I'd had some odd jobs, and I've been a teacher, and I've, you know, done some things like that, but like I never really had lived anywhere for too long, and hadn't really done any. I didn't have like a work history, I guess. So I was like, what am I gonna do? All of a sudden, I was older and still just hanging around playing music. So I was like, I guess I better try to be an artist or something. So I was like, I guess I'll move to LA. So I came down here and thought, oh, this would be the scariest place I could go. This big city with all this traffic and all this noise, and it's expensive, and, you know. But then I got down here, and I had a great time. I learned a lot, and just, you know, I interned for record labels, and I like worked in fashion, started, because I'd always made my own costumes, but at some point I was like, I have to get a job now, because I couldn't play music here in LA the way I had done wherever else I was, you know, like,
yeah,
I'd always been able to just play wherever and have plenty to eat and you know, to do whatever was next. So then when it came to me like sticking around here, I was like, every time I tried to leave and tour so that I could make money, then I was like sort of missing out on being in the city and taking advantage of certain opportunities. And I was like, I really should just stick around a little bit. So I did. I stuck around a little bit. I still went on some tours and stuff, but I didn't have to book them.
Nice.
And, you know, I still did a handful of tours, but mostly I just, I was like, what can I do? And I'd always made my own costumes. And so then I got a job with Destiny Blue at D Blue Dazzle. And yeah, and then from there I started doing my own design work and making costumes. So I still work with her too. She's really wonderful and sparkly and fun. And she always gives me, there's always like bags of crystals that they're like, oh, Poeina, take these home. And I'm like sticking them on everything.
I love that. Well, I mean, that's just like the true entrepreneurial spirit. And that's one of the things that I really just want to highlight for the listeners is that, you know, you've been someone that's been at the, you know, doing your own thing and being an artist and a creative at a very young age and still doing it. I think that's something that so many people wish that they had, that type of freedom to really just create and do whatever their heart really wants to. So that's like beautiful place to be in life.
Well, I had a lot of people while I was traveling around and doing whatever I was doing. They were just like, well, you know, when you get older, you're not going to have the energy to do all this. So you better do it now. You better do it now. So everybody just kept encouraging me to go and do it. They're like, we're not doing it, so someone should do it. You should do it. Like, go on adventures and come visit us and tell us all about it.
Well, that's the coolest thing about it is that, you know, I think there's such a stigma nowadays about, honestly, I don't really know how I want to phrase this. I feel like our society has been very, I guess you would say, blind and wants to talk about female strength and female empowerment, but doesn't really always want to put women in the position to do things because they want them to have to like get a platform to do it, not just like carve their own path. And, you know, we're at like almost like the 100-year celebration of like the women of like the 19th Amendment or like women being able to vote. And like, that's like, it started with women just doing their own thing and going against the grain. And like, you've literally done that with your life and turned into be, well, you're a true rock star as I see it, where it's like, you know, you've got against the grain, you've done your own thing, you continue to do it despite any, like all the adversities, and you do it with a smile, you know, and you're a badass vocalist, you know what I mean, and songwriter. So it's like, I haven't seen any of the costumes, but from what I've seen, I love them as well. So it's like you're a basic designer. So it's like that's the type of inspiration that we really need to be getting out there for women, not just like following some cookie cutter path and then like getting up this hierarchy and trying to beat men. It's like, no, use your feminine energy to rock shit.
Yeah.
You just
Yep.
Well, it's great to see because you're trying to give back, and like I guess we can segue into the Auntie Popo's kids show because that's one of those things where, again, you can you said teaching experience, so I had to write it down. I was like, oh, in my notes I had a little arrow. I was like, there's the connection, because that's one of those things where you're literally giving people like a child care or like a early school, like kindergarten, first grade, second grade type of like teaching experience by yourself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the COVID happened, and I always thought it would be fun to maybe do some little kid show because I have so many nieces and nephews, because I have so many brothers and sisters. I have, I don't know, 25 or 30 nieces and nephews. And sometimes, like with my life, it's hard to always keep up with everybody and what they're always doing. And I'm like, man, sometimes I just wish I was doing the Auntie Popo shows, so they know I love them and I'm thinking about them. But then when the COVID hit, I was like, Well, now all these people are stuck at home with their kids and they're not used to that, and they're trying to work at the same time while trying to, entertain them and all of that. So I was like, that was going to be my COVID contribution, because when everything hit, I was like, what can I do? Like, what's my job? Like, So, but then people seem to really like the show and have been wanting to push me in the direction of like making it its own thing. So I'm working on building the Antipopo YouTube page and the other social media pages just around that show, and I'll keep doing it and keep posting new episodes. I started working with someone who's a sign language interpreter, so that hopefully we can have some episodes with sign language in it, and just trying to like build on what I've already done and create new ideas. I have my first kid who wanted to be in the show, who insisted on being in the show. So working on that episode. Like, I need to be in this show.
Oh, well, I mean, I think it's a brilliant idea and I love the execution. And it does really give you that vibe. Like, I have 10 years experience in like after school programs and childcare and child development. And like for me, seeing that, I was like, yep, that's it right there. She's bringing the heat because it's the energy. I mean, I watched a few episodes, not gonna lie. I love the little animal nature intro. I had to listen to that green eggs and ham. But that's the thing is like it brings that. It just goes to show, just like you're a person with you have so much depth to your personality and your character, and just being able to do something like that where it's like a selfless show for kids, just trying to teach them, give them that like loving energy. That's what we need, considering all the crazy creepy stuff that's going on.
Yeah, there's so much nonsense on, and I think most people are just trying to cope with it, and like we don't really know exactly yet what's real and not real. I feel like we're all still trying to figure it out because there's a lot going around. But I'm all about little solutions. I mean, I'm not a big, huge macro type of thinker. I think very small, like what can I do right now, right here, with what's around me, who's around me, etc. And that's just always been how I can better function. When I start thinking about it bigger, I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I can't help. I'm insignificant. I can't do anything. I don't know what to, I just freak out. But yeah, like I'm just breaking the wall. Like
oh
yeah,
gosh.
exactly. So yeah, I'd rather think, on the little level. Plus, like Antipopo is like my youngest personality that I get to express in a different way. So it's fun.
I love it. I love it.
To express the childlike energy without it being crazy or strange. So everyone's like, oh, it's Antipopo, it's fine. She's supposed to act like that.
Well, I think that's one of those things where I definitely feel like I can get grouped in that category of just being like, oh, that childlike. People see it as immature nowadays when you talk about like childlike energy, and it's like, no, I feel like it's actually one of my indicators to see how kind of like spiritually advanced someone is, because the more you unfold and unlock that stuff, like that inner child comes out more and more and more, and then life is just like a play and an adventure, and like you can see the sticklers who are just thinking they're adults, but it's like,
I know they're adults. It's so hard. I know. When I first got to LA, that happened to me quite a bit. I'd be at a party or something, and I'd be having a conversation with someone, and we're talking about something, and I'm like interested in what's happening, and people are like, are you being serious right now? I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, are you being serious right now? Because you look like you're enjoying the conversation. And I'm like, well, I am enjoying the conversation. They're like, well, it just seems like you're like actually listening and engaged. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm like, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. I'm like, what in the world? but they just couldn't believe it. And I was like, oh, okay. People aren't interested in things here. It was such a strange experience.
That's so funny you said that, because it just makes it stand out so much more how kind of you briefly said it earlier where it was like the kind of craziness nowadays is normalized. And it's like, wait, why are you shocked that someone's actually listening to you? Why are you shocked that someone's actually like engaged and enthusiastic with conversation? Like, where did we go wrong as a civilization for that stuff to be considered not normal? It's like, that's the human heart right there. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, that's dope. I love it. Continue. Like,
People are so stuck on their phones too, so
well, I guess. Well, where are you going in between? Because I know we've talked about it in the green room. Is that you're in LA just for work, and then you're planning on going back to Utah?
Yeah. It's a very weird life right now. I live in Utah and work in LA, but yeah.
Honestly, it sounds kind of like the life, though. It's an escape from LA.
Yeah. It's nice, but I miss some things. But I really love the space, and like if you've seen the Anti-Popo show, you've seen my little film studio. It's nice to have it all set up, and I can just go and work and do something. It's really fun. So.
Oh yeah. Well, what do you think? What do you think's the difference in terms of just like the energies and the people, and just like from the city to the more like quote unquote rural area?
Well, out in the middle of nowhere, there's just no people. I talk to the postman when I bring in packages, when people order face masks for my Etsy shop, or if somebody asks me to
Check that out.
sell them costume for whatever, then I'll send that in the mail.
Yeah.
But other than that, I spend my time healing and writing and filming and singing and sewing and just building. I feel like I'm just building out there. It's great. And I come here and I make a little money and do a few sessions and get go back.
You people, you engage with society. I personally love that, because I feel like one of the things that, especially getting caught up in the city life, I don't think people recognize the importance of taking a break and getting out in nature and just kind of being by yourself and doing those types of just creative outlets that speak to your heart. So I hope a lot of people are at least trying to get to do like the latter and get to create and do things that really make them happy, like lockdown stuff. But it's cool you have that as a life, to be real. A lot of people are envious of that, yo.
I'm sure. I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful. Very, very grateful. Very grateful.
Well, that's something people aren't grateful nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like I was on lockdown like the whole year before everyone else, and now I'm kind of like coasting through this lockdown situation.
Right?
Like, feeling fine.
Well, speaking of that, because you did briefly touch on it, and I personally know it's related, but for the listeners, what happened this last year in terms of your injury and just kind of like the events in your life?
Well, I had been gearing up to go on a world tour and release a new album that I had been working on for years with this producer here in LA. And sorry.
No, take your time. Take your time.
I like trying not to disconnect. Oh.
Yeah.
And he I don't think I'm very good at talking about all this yet.
You don't need to dive into it. You don't need to dive into it. Do whatever works for you.
Yeah, the whole tour was canceled. Everything got shut down and put on hold. He sexually assaulted me, threatened to rape me, and then I fought back so he beat me until he broke some of my teeth. I have a tear in my spine, and I have a brain injury and another injury in my shoulder. So I was pretty much like, I couldn't work or really do anything for a long time. I've been sick and just battling, brain injury stuff and getting better.
Yeah.
So, and like my arms go numb. That's why I haven't been able to play the guitar as much, because I can play for about 10-15 minutes and then I can't feel my hands.
Wow.
So it's been very different.
And that breaks my heart because you're such a beautiful soul. And, I think that's one of the things where the things that happen in life, it's like, it doesn't make sense, but I already know that you're like a phoenix. I already just know you have that fire energy, and just like seeing where you're at now and just being able to smile. And I mean, again, it comes back to like being able to create things that bring people joy and love. Like, my heart goes out to you because, you're a badass. You're a badass. Well, it's crazy just to see like where you're at from some of the photos that we talked about of you being like in your actual bed, like in the hospital bed, and being able to move, and like
yeah, being in a lot of pain and having panic attacks. It was really scary. I'd never been so scared in my life, to be beaten almost to death like that, like covered in blood. I escaped. I was running. I was not fully clothed, not sure, if I was being followed, or it was really terrifying. And I pretty much had to leave LA because the city was refusing to make an arrest. And they said, for my safety, that I should leave, which I really don't understand why they would prefer to protect a violent criminal than to protect someone who's like was active in their community. Like, so I can't really go back to like what I was doing and my ministries and my church and my community. Like, I can't really go back to that neighborhood until they make an arrest.
Those are the types of things that I still get really like, I'm a pretty loving spirit and try not to let that stuff get to me. But like, that's one of the stuff that I still get really incredibly enraged about, because it's just the levels of corruption that stuff all involves. And especially when you have people in those positions of power who abuse it. To me, there's nothing more evil. I mean, I don't use that word lightly, but it is a really evil thing to put people in that position and to assert your will and dominance over someone. That it's like it's our human right to each be respected and to each be treated with love and compassion. And again, like LA and that kind of like Hollywood sphere, I just don't think people really understand like how dark and how messed up it really is when you get down into it.
It's scary. I think there's a lot of people like that guy who hurt me. That's the creepy part. It's like there's a lot of these guys in LA. They're like, it's like they aspire to be cult leaders or something. I don't get it. I don't know.
Sociopaths.
But, yeah, I think this culture breeds sociopaths. I'm not sure why. And obviously there's lots of wonderful, beautiful, amazing people here. There's like tons of different people who've immigrated from all over the world. So it's like really like different and interesting. And like I've met cultures of people that I was like, I'm so American. I've like never even heard of your country. Like, where's your country? Like, it's super fun. Like really all different kinds of people in the city. So, lots of great people here, but unfortunately there's, some pretty scary villains too.
Ooh, that term, villains.
Villains.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
villains. That guy literally told me that I was his slave and that he owned me. He
What the?
said he was going to brand me. I mean, it was terrifying. It was really terrifying.
And I think that's even more sketch because, like, one of the many cults that's in like that whole area, like, which has more of like the notable celebrities that got arrested recently, like the Nexium case, that was like their MO. That was exactly what they do. That's exactly how they treat people and do things. And again, like, I know it's a sensitive topic for yourself, and I know it's a very uncomfortable one for many, but like that type of like ritualistic abuse, human trafficking, all of these things are incredibly important to really educate yourself on and learn about so we can stop it from happening. And I think that's my biggest thing for people is like we can't stop something if we don't even want to recognize its existence. And when you see people in like law enforcement, all these types of like judges that protect all those things, oh,
There's there's a lady here. Her name's Senator Rubio, I think. She's working on passing some laws in regards to coercive control. One of them just went through in regards to custody battles, but this is something I think would be really super helpful in trying to convict like domestic violence type of situations, where it's like,
yeah.
This physical abuse stuff, assault and whatever. The coercive control, I think it would help like women and children or men too, victims
Yeah.
who are being isolated from their friends and their family and then abused. That isolation can be if those coercive control bills go through, then that would be a behavior that there would actually be some sort of power within the system to say, hey, let's look at this because this person has, had zero contact with their friends or family. They can go and look at the situation or whatever, Maybe it can be used as some evidence to support the abuse, or maybe it can protect with restraining orders or whatever. But either way, I'm trying to learn through this process, when it comes to domestic violence and sexual assault and all these kinds of things. I'm trying to learn as much as I can while going through this process about the system and how it functions and how it functions improperly, because I know everybody's thinking about like justice reform or whatever, and this is definitely a part of it. There's a huge component, especially since the lockdown. There's been a lot more domestic violence complaints, and so I think there's got to be a better way that the system can function to not encourage this type of behavior to go unchecked and no accountability for it. Because right now it's very very little.
Yeah. No.
What's held accountable, and I feel like in general, I mean, aren't those the type of crimes people are most concerned about, like rape, violence?
Right.
That's the stuff that leads to murder.
Exactly. Because those are all the sociopathic, like really like insidious natures of people. And it's like those
or alcoholism.
There. Yeah.
Either way, like that stuff needs to be properly dealt with so that we don't have, think about the emotional issues that it causes people to be abused and assaulted, and then like the kids, if there's kids, or if it happens to kids, the damage is so far and so great, it takes a long time for victims to recover. And so it's just, the crimes are just they're so ugly there, and if they're reduced, then we're creating healthier populations of people.
And that's it right there, though, is the healing that's required for all of this stuff. And we live in a culture, I feel, that really doesn't even value. I feel I get deemed as woo woo or out there, or, oh, that's very like like they're just an off-putting topic when I talk about, spirituality and inner development. And as I really like to teach it, it's healing those wounds of the heart, because each being goes through suffering and trauma and pain, and it's up to each of us to heal it instead of letting it manifest into something more negative or self-destructive. But if we don't get that healing, we repeat those mistakes, and our culture doesn't really value that type of stuff. And even just
Yeah.
bringing like mental health issues to the forefront, and just those kind of personal emotional issues and just physical issues, they're stigmatized, they're looked down upon, it's frowned upon. And it's the exact opposite treatment of what we really need to be. Like, we need to be embracing people, not pushing them away and considering treating them like they're possessed, like, oh, get away from me. Like,
Yeah.
it's so sad. It's so sad to me, especially in Seattle. Like, we're meant, like you touched on it earlier, where it's, and you've seen it, I've seen it, but like in a lot of locals that we've seen it, experienced it. But mental health is plaguing most homeless people out here. And it's a situation too, again, where you touched up on, where it's hard and people don't realize. It's like, I know people that have been homeless, and they only developed mental health issues because they were homeless, and they were in that state.
Yeah.
They were in that state of
Yeah,
survival and fear.
it's so difficult to stay mentally well when you are tired because you don't have anywhere to sleep. You're either woken up by the police or you're in danger and you have to, like, guard yourself, or
Yeah.
or there's ordinances that prevent you from sleeping, and so it's really difficult to maintain a job. It's really difficult. Granted, there are people who are homeless and have a job, but
Yeah. Which is even more messed up too.
oh yeah, I know lots of them. So it's just, I don't know. We just have to pray for them. We need to pray for people, and we need to figure out a different way.
Yeah.
There needs to be, I know people get scared of homeless people, but like, they're just people. They're our brothers and our sisters. They're our aunts, our uncles, our nephews. They're our grandparents.
It's such an intimate situation too, because I feel like people always forget that study that was done, I feel like it was a few months ago. It's definitely probably increased because of the lockdown and all the unemployment, but I think it was like 60% of people are like one paycheck away from being on the streets. We have that many people that are like literally just grasping for air when it comes to just maintaining a roof over their head, yet we stigmatize this, really just this massive negligent suffering that is just really because society doesn't want to do something about it.
Yeah.
It'd be a powerful topic.
I mean, it's a big problem. It's a really, really big problem to address.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, Rusty.
Hi, I'm back.
Hi.
My inner child's here to come play.
Yay!
I love
it.
Yeah. And so, first of all, before I begin, I get that this is our chat went a little heavy, but this is necessary because these are not the type of conversations, and that's what Creatives Chat do. We just talk about everything that comes up. It's just a natural, organic flow. And so, but these are some, I think I'm going to use Peter's word here, tumultuous times. And but this is where our communities need to start uniting and come together. And this is, yes, we have to stay connected and
positive.
And positive, yes, because there's a major disconnect.
Trade your skills. If people are out there suffering and they don't know where they can save money or how to save money, figure out how you can trade your skills, because that doesn't cost anybody anything. And I know everybody has skills that they can utilize, and to find other ways, unique, creative ways to like acquire things that you need. to be well and to stay well through this, because this isn't going to last forever.
Uplift one another.
Uplift one another. I'd like to applaud you for your courage and speaking up and taking a stand for your community. I get that there are a lot of great people everywhere, but I also get that there's a small percent of people that are in positions of power that are also predators, and they're attracted to those positions of power specifically for that, so that they can prey on people. And so, but it takes a community to change that.
Yeah.
It takes one person to speak up, and it takes a community to support them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I applaud you for standing up and speaking out.
I have one more question, and I hate to backtrack on things, but I think just the interjection helped out, because my question comes into the point of your process of healing and that inner growth and development. And I think something that's always really important for, our listeners, and what we're really trying to do with this show, is to show the power that each of us has within us. And I'm just curious on your own process of healing, and what words of advice or encouragement you can provide for anyone who's going through a similar experience, or has, is a survivor like yourself. And that's the most important thing I really want to highlight, is that you're a rock star, badass, beautiful soul survivor, and you're a fighter. And I think I love that about you. And I think that's one of the things that I was really excited to have you on, because I know you have such an inspirational story of strength and perseverance, and honestly, having a heart of gold, despite it all.
Well, thanks. Giving me a lot to live up to now. I think, if people are dealing with hard stuff, you just don't build up in your head like what needs to get done all in one day, just one foot in front of the other. And we go through things. You have to go through them. So you just allow it to happen and just go through whatever you need to go through, one step at a time, and usually that tends to make it less, I feel like, or lessens the load somehow, and you just sort of accept your emotions as they come, and just kind of let it pass through you. But I mean, I personally pray the rosary as much as I can. I'm absolutely devoted to it. It's a form of ancient prayer that is both meditation and prayer at the same time. And so it's kind of like multi-dimensional for me. So it's like I can pray like different types of prayers that remind me, to be humble, whole, and happy, But then I can also be like praying for the world and praying for different people at the same time. So that I've just had innumerable rewards from praying the rosary. It's helped me a lot process grief, endure through suffering, endure through pain, and I love it. I love it personally. I just think it's the greatest thing ever.
I love it that you love it, because it's the importance of, I like to always say, like meditation, like mantras, spirituality. It's all just a point of you being able to let go and embrace the experiences that we live through, and gives us like an infinite well of strength and courage and just trust and faith, that you're going to get through the cave into the next side. You're going to be back into the green pastures sooner or later. But it's what helps you get that, for me at least, it's what helps you get that next foot forward. And it's, not being scared that you don't know where it's going to land, but knowing that you're going to keep moving forward. And I think it's so important for this world, is for us to develop that inner light, and that perseverance and strength and trust, and
and suffering carves us out. And like the Bible talks about us, God forging us through fire to make gold. So like if we give up and allow our suffering to like overcome us and to conquer us, then we'll never know like what what we're being made for. That's beyond that, you know. So we have to remember that even when everything just hurts so deeply to our core, you know.
Yeah. Woo!
I love that. And I think that's a good spot to come and say, wow, we've been on another roller coaster ride called Creatives Chat. Hopefully you found some inspiration and useful perspectives to consider. And we want to encourage our listeners to continue to develop their uniqueness and their creativity, and to appreciate and nurture the good in yourself and our community. With that, we wish you the best. Have a happy always. That concludes this episode of Creatives Chat. Thank you for watching. Join us every Thursday at 3:33 p.m. Pacific Daily Time as creative minds get together and chat about who knows what. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again to our sponsors for making this show possible. Thanks for joining us.